Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power's Save Our Game. Donating at least 100,000 to Irish football via England goals this summer. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Good morning. You're very welcome along to the Euro 2020 show. Shane Hannon here with you, and we're with you every single day for the duration of the tournament. When there is a match day and when it's a weekday. So we're with you for 31 days in all, live every single weekday on OTB Sports Radio, on the OTB Sports app, which you can download for free in the App Store or indeed the Play Store. We're live as well on stream at the moment as well, youtube.com/Off the Ball, on Facebook. And you'll get us on Twitter and Periscope at Off the Ball as well. And our OTB Sports Euro 2020 show is live with Paddy Power's Save Our Game, donating €10,000 to Irish football for every goal England scored at the Euros. That means Raheem Sterling's goal against Croatia means there's €10,000 already so far for Irish football, so not bad at all. Over the coming weeks, I'll be joined by regular guests Eamon Dunphy, Damien Delaney, and plenty of Euros legends and football insiders as well, as we preview each day's matches. Irish legends Tony Cascarino and John Aldridge will be with us very shortly this morning, and I'll also be joined every single day by a different member of Team Off the Ball. And this morning, it's the turn of Eoin Sheahan. Eoin, good morning.
Morning, Shane. How are things?
Not too bad, keeping well. Kerry won half a league title. Monaghan stayed up for an 8th consecutive year in Division 1. So between all the celebrating and delight that we both had, did you manage to watch much of the Euros at the weekend?
Yeah, pretty much all of it. It was like this incredible weekend, from the very opening notes of Andrea Bocelli's incredible voice that we once again got to witness and kind of had forgotten about on Friday evening, to these crazy little ecosystems that we're seeing in all these stadiums across the continent, whether it's varying degrees of crowd volume or varying degrees of drunkenness at different times of the time zones across Europe, or varying degrees of like home support getting behind the team. There is a strange energy already after 3 days across the tournament, but it's been, especially on the back of last night, incredibly enjoyable.
Yeah, it makes it kind of interesting when there's so many host cities involved. There's a different vibe to it as opposed to when there's one country. I thoroughly enjoyed the remote control car bringing on the football at the opening ceremony, opening match. That was kind of, there's been a few weird moments, like, to be fair.
That is the peak right there, the remote control. I'm just desperately disappointed that the football wasn't picked up by the car at halftime and then again at full time. It was left to fend for itself, and the referee was the person driving it in. Like, I mean, what a moment for Volkswagen to have that exposure. I was just thinking there as well, like looking at your backdrop there. It's a beautiful morning for your artwork, and your gorgeous Dutch artwork, the way it blends in with that orange brick behind you as well. This is Holland's world, and we're all living in it.
Someone chose Ruud Gullit very well. Like, the funny thing was, we spoke with Damien Delaney on the show on Friday, I think it was, and understandably, and maybe in some quarters rightly so, he was saying he didn't really fancy the Dutch to get out of this group, and he wasn't alone in that thought, because the Dutch are in a bit of disarray. Frank de Boer is a bit of a laughingstock. Even his brother is slagging him off, saying he's not much of a manager. And then they go and do what they did last night against a pretty decent Ukrainian team, it has to be said, who are in decent form. So you can't rule the Dutch out yet. I'm not saying they're going to win this tournament, but if last night's anything to go by, they won't be easily stopped. And
didn't Frank de Boer do this strange set of interviews before the tournament where he would predict all of the scorelines?
Yeah,
throughout the tournament, and he picked 3-1, I think, for last night.
Right.
He wasn't too far off, but first of all, if you're signing up to predicting your team's results at a tournament, you're already getting yourself into a whole heap of trouble there. So I kind of admire the stones he has to be able to do that. Like, it is interesting though, if you try and pick, I don't know, flaws out from a team. Like, you talk about the Netherlands situation there. I think you can look at the France situation at the moment and talk about a few of the troubles that seem to be popping up from that camp. It's hard to use those as a reason to say that they won't qualify from the group. That is the problem. It surely won't be to the detriment of their qualification. France and the Netherlands will almost certainly be playing knockout football at this year's tournament, regardless of how chaotic their build-up might have been, which I guess is nice and forgiving from their perspective, but I guess there is that lack of a ruthless edge sometimes when you look at the stakes involved in these group stage games.
Yeah, for sure. And like, talking about chaotic, I mean, the Christian Eriksen incident, we have to talk about that, because it's kind of overshadowed and certainly will be the moment that this tournament is remembered for, no matter what happens from this point forth. But one of those sick to your stomach feelings when you're starting to get those texts around the WhatsApp groups and people are saying this doesn't look good whatsoever. You immediately fear the worst when you see the images as well on TV. But what was your immediate reaction when you started to kind of hear this news trickle through?
Yes, well, I wasn't watching this live on TV, which I guess I'm kind of happy to say I wasn't, because obviously there's been a big conversation around the ethics of how it was covered with the live broadcast at the time, and the directors at the ground. And I guess everybody likes to think that once it got to a certain point you might switch it off, but I'm not sure if that's how I would have reacted myself. I think that everybody maybe had their own sort of feeling of how sick they felt seeing what they were seeing on screen. For me, the takeaway from it is actually the poignancy of his teammates standing around him. I guess the fact that his teammates were the first responders to what was so almost the biggest disaster in the history of the European Championships. The heroic response from them, and then from the medical staff of the Danish national team. I think I saw somewhere that it was 45 seconds between him hitting the ground and the doctor actually reaching him, which is nothing. It just goes to show how brilliantly set up these football stadiums are. And then, as we know from what's happened in the aftermath, thankfully, I guess we just need to appreciate just how brilliant these medical professionals actually are as well. This has gone from a disaster to an okay outcome, I think. We will know a lot more over the next couple of days, but God, he's a lucky man. He's very fortunate. This could have been so much worse. But what I take away from it, like in terms of what I remember from that moment, really is just kind of the shock of it, but also the sort of the bravery and the incredible camaraderie that goes beyond being a teammate. I feel that we saw from those Danish players, those young men that stood to protect their best player, their leader at that moment, and it was just an incredible show of solidarity. Yeah,
incredible. The leadership, Simon Kjær showed that the captain, and Kasper Schmeichel, and going over and hugging Christian Eriksen's wife and family as well. That was incredible to see. It definitely puts it all into perspective for sure. I should mention as well, before we get to Tony Cascarino and John Aldridge, I've been picking my rolling all-stars, my team of the tournament. Might get first of all the team I went with at the start. So this was the team I originally picked pre-tournament. You will notice I have 2 Turkish players in that team. Turkey were my dark horses, and now I have egg on my face because Turkey were absolutely abysmal in their opening game against the Italians. I went for Lloris, Fernandes of Russia right back. Soyuncu, Varane hasn't played yet, to be fair, neither is Tierney. Foden on the left, Havertz hasn't played, Kante hasn't played, Memphis Depay of course played last night, and then Lukaku and Yilmaz. I'm happy with the Lukaku shout, to be fair. And now, Owen, I can safely say I've changed my team entirely and only one person has survived, and that's Romelu Lukaku for Belgium. I've gone with Danny Ward, the Welsh keeper. He was incredible in that draw against Switzerland for the Welsh, and then the back four, Dumfries for the Dutch. Chiellini was incredible for Italy. That last minute block as well for them in that win against the Turks was incredible. David Alaba for Austria and Thomas Meunier for Belgium. Yarmolenko, what a goal that was. Probably the goal of the round so far, possibly. Although Insigne's goal for Italy was a great team goal in their first game. Calvin Phillips, incredible revelation. John Giles' team of the season in the Premier League as well, alongside Gigi Wijnaldum. Berardi on the left for Italy. He was excellent and just ran the show for the Italians in that opening game. They'll be hard stopped. And up front, Owen, Romelu Lukaku alongside Mbolo for Switzerland, who I think is going to be snapped up by a team bigger than the Borussia Mönchengladbach team he currently plays for. So go on ahead, ruin my team, take it all away from me.
I don't know. I think it's a good team. It's just the Berardi pick. You're doing a Gareth Southgate on him, playing a right-sided player on the left side of your team. I love the right-hand side of that Italian attack, the Barella-Berardi combination down that side. And who's your left back again? Sorry.
Left back there was Thomas Meunier, I think.
Meunier. I might have gone for Spinazzola over Meunier, but other than that, I think you've done pretty well. But then again, it's only been 3 days of evidence, so you couldn't have gone too far wrong. True,
yeah. Not a bad team. 3 more games down for decision today as well across the continent. I want to bring you, though, a look at some of the Paddy Power markets for those games, so have a look.
Yeah, absolutely.
OK, we're on to the Monday of the European Championship. 3 more games to look forward to. And Emmett O'Keefe, we're going to start off with Scotland against Czech Republic, obviously in England's group. Scotland have a habit of playing well against the Czech Republic. Twice in 2019 to beat them in the Nations League, and they're unbeaten in the last 5 against the Czech Republic. And Scotland seem up for this Euros.
I think, I'm I find this a very, very hard game to call. And I think it's a measure of how much Scotland have improved that's the case. So I think Czech Republic are potentially kind of one of the dark horse of this tournament. But I think Scotland are very well managed under Steve Clarke. They have home advantage. And I think getting Che Adams into the fold, I think, has been huge for Scotland's chances. I think given the options they had at the likes of Lyndon Dykes and Lawrence Shankland playing up front, Adams is far better than those players. I think gives Scotland a fighting chance against quite strong opposition that the Czech Republic are.
Yeah, maybe both teams to score in that match might be the best bet there. 5 o'clock, we've got Poland against Slovakia.
Yeah, I think I'm not too high on either team, but I'm lower on Slovakia. I think Slovakia will be one of the lowest scoring teams in the tournament. They're very, very limited in attack. And I just think with Poland, with Lewandowski and supported by the likes of Zielinski from Napoli, will find his way to get at least one goal, and that'll probably be enough against Slovakia. So the bet I like here is Poland to win 0 at 8-5.
Okay, and we finish off with Spain against Sweden. Hasn't been a great preparation for Spain. How will they get on against the Swedes?
Yeah, I think we've two teams here that have been both kind of affected by COVID, with Sergio Busquets absent for Spain. And I think probably more important, I think Busquets is probably a little bit past his best, and Spain have plenty of midfielders. But Dejan Kulusevski will be out for Sweden, which I think would be a huge loss for them. The Juventus man, one of the more promising young attacking players in Europe. But the way I'd look for a bet here is Ferran Torres score any time at 23-10. The listeners might have seen him play in fits and starts for Man City, but this guy's a seriously promising player, as he showed with scoring a hat-trick towards the end of the season against Newcastle. He's an excellent goal-scoring record for Spain, and I think him 23-10, him to score any time looks a very fair price.
Yeah, he scored 2 against Germany when they beat them 6-0 a couple of years ago. Right, to wrap up Monday, you've given us your 2 best bets: Poland to win 0, Torrens to score. What's the nap on Monday?
I think, yeah, Ferran Torres score any time.
Yeah, reminder, our OTB SPORTS Euro 2020 show is live with Paddy Power's Save Our Game, donating €10,000 to Irish football for every goal England scored at the Euros. So Raheem Sterling's goal of the weekend means that's 10k so far for Irish football. Tony Cascarino and John Aldridge, good morning, lads.
Good morning, boys. Good morning.
How are you keeping? Lads, I just want to I guess, touch on something myself and Owen were talking about before, and the Christian Eriksen incident, which of course has taken centre stage this weekend, and the hope is that he's okay and going to be okay. And look, it was a terrifying incident, but Tony, I mean, I guess really it puts it all into perspective, doesn't it? I mean, football is not exactly the be all and end all when something like this happens.
No, and it just makes you think about, how vulnerable we all are, because when a 29-year-old fit young man can collapse like he did, and luckily with the paramedics around him, got a fantastic treatment. Look, it could have been far worse, as we're all aware. There's a big thing, and defibrillators and what they do and help around sports, around swimming and football and many others that can benefit footballers. And I think in some ways there was a lot of positives to take out. Christian Eriksen has survived it, and I'm sure he'll make a pretty close to full recovery. But I thought it was very heartwarming in a way. Both teams reacted to the incident, the referee Anthony Taylor, and just the paramedics who stood out for how quickly they dealt with the issue, which was very, very difficult to see.
Yeah, like you mentioned, the positives to come out of it, Tony, and at least, I guess, a conversation has started around CPR and the importance of people knowing and understanding CPR, and certainly, if anything's going to come out of it, it was probably similar when Fabrice Muamba's incident happened as well, that maybe the conversation happened around the importance of that life-saving skill to have. For you, John, I mean, terrifying incident, but as Tony says, to see the leadership of those Danish players and forming a circle around their teammate, their friend, it was quite heartwarming to see that.
It certainly was. We were the same. With our Irish squad, we were very clannish, as the Danish lads are, and to see one of your teammates have that attack on the pitch was quite daunting. He was very, very close. Right place at the wrong time. Anywhere else, the possibility is Christian mightn't have come through this. Thankfully, he was at the right place with all the paramedics. Everything was on tap for him, and he did a magnificent job. I actually think it was unfair to ask the Danish players to play on. After seeing the emotions that they showed afterwards, to go and have a break and a rest and get themselves together and go back on the pitch, I think that was pretty tough, and I thought it was going to be a 0-0 draw at all, and after all that, to go on and get beat 1-0, I think we should have called it a draw. I really do. I think and it's a difficult decision for UEFA to take and all that, but I just think that wasn't right personally. You imagine the emotions that you were feeling, and Tony and myself. Your guts were churning, thinking everyone's just pulling for this fella. How does his teammates feel? And they have to go back on that pitch. And I think that would probably affect them in the next 2 games. I hope not. I'd love them to go and, you know, get 6 points after what they've gone through. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's it's hard to take some like when you see this happening and then you see the players having to come back out for the match, as you say, John, leaves a bit of a sour taste. Like even I know from like, you know, you'd be a training session. We had a training session in Gaelic football quite recently back at home in Monaghan, and you know, there was quite a graphic injury of a broken ankle at training, and the decision is made then to you know, cancel training. That's it. You know, Absolutely. Nobody's in the right frame of mind. This is a much more serious thing, of course, a cardiac arrest. But Tony, are you along similar lines to John? I mean, do you think UEFA could have shown a bit more backbone and potentially postponed the game to the next day or to Monday or whenever it might have been?
Well, it's very difficult, boys, when this is the first time this has ever happened, not in professional football, but an international tournament. And I think UEFA have had to make a quick decision. I think in some ways it would have been worse to even play the game the next day, which I thought just not on at all. Maybe you could add that being asked to make a decision so quickly was the wrong thing from UEFA. I don't really know how you settle this, and I agree with John. There's not really a right answer to this. Look, the Danish players were clearly affected. And also, you know, you could say, well, that obviously the Finland players as well, likewise. But it just didn't feel right that they were out on the football pitch so close. I like John, I don't know how I would have felt wanting to go out and play football with the Republic of Ireland and seeing one of my teammates who I'm close with, who I've shared great times with on the football pitch and off it, and then I've suddenly got to go out and play. My mind will be thinking about them. I can't imagine, even though they've got the okay of, yes, he's sitting up in hospital, yes, he's probably spoke to one or two of them by FaceTime or whatever, maybe, I don't know, maybe he said, look, lads, go and play. I don't know. But it's very, very difficult. There's no real right answer to this. I just think UEFA could have given it a little bit more time.
Yeah, it's a strange one, and look, I know it's a difficult decision for anyone to have to make at the time, and nobody really knew how well or unwell he was. But yeah, look, all we can hope for is that he's okay from this point forward, really. But if we turn our attention then, I guess, to the football, lads, it was a busy weekend, plenty of interesting games and good games on the pitch as well. But we might start with England and that 1-0 win over Croatia. And I know, Eoin, you are someone who, listening to OTB AM this morning, were not fully convinced by England. They got the result, but maybe did some elements of their performance, Eoin, suggest to you that maybe they won't be the team to go on and win this tournament like so many expect they would have been?
I'll just put this to the two lads. It's just, I'd be keen to get your thoughts on what is the expectation of this England team, because I think if the expectation for this England team is to, I guess, come up short against France or Portugal in the last 16, then of course yesterday's result is more than acceptable. It's a good result. But I just reckon watching that yesterday, guys, and maybe to you first, Tony, that England have yet to show that they can actually go and beat someone like France or Portugal. That performance yesterday perhaps still leaves a few boxes to be ticked in order to knock out one of the top 2 teams in most people's book in this year's tournament.
Yes, I mean, it was a very weird day for England against Croatia, because I think Gareth had tough choices to make, and you can't deny that the ones he made, it made England get a result. I mean, Sterling on the left clearly kept getting behind Fasuko at right back, done it numerous times during the game. I think Harry Kane suffered because he got asked to do a little bit more of an unselfish role for England, but they were trying to play a lot of long balls and a lot of balls that turned the Croatian team. And that was the tactic on the day. Look, the Croatian midfield was incredibly strong, not only with experience, with technical ability. I think if they'd have gone the 2 or the 3 against their 3 in a footballing match, Croatia have got enough savvy, and they're very streetwise in that position in central midfield, to hurt England. And England didn't allow it. You know, Trippier at left back clearly come on his right foot a lot and kept chipping balls into a channel, into space. I think Gareth will probably take a lot of pleasure about getting a result that you can forget about quite quickly, move on against a team that I think he made mistakes in the second half against Croatia in the semi-final of the World Cup 18. But I think he's learned from that, and that was the big positive for England.
John, for you, it's interesting because I guess there is a sense before kick-off yesterday that maybe this wouldn't be the team that would start every game. At the same time, what changes would you make, if any, before Scotland on Friday night?
I don't know. It's a funny one, really. I'm not really bothered what they do, to be quite honest. And I'm watching the games. The one mistake for me, and Tony, he tipped on it there. If England are going to go far in this championship and win it, Harry Kane doesn't want to be that deep. He can't be on the halfway line, and then you got two wingers at the pace of what they've got to get into the box and get on the end of things. Yeah, you come into areas where you can mix it up and play off and go in behind. But he's coming far too deep. If England win it, he's got to be top scorer or near enough top scorer of the tournament. They depend a lot on him, on his goals. And yeah, they got the 3 points, which is the most important thing. 1-0, 2-0, doesn't matter. Get the first game over, get the 3 points in the bag and move on. But Croatia showed that, at the back, England, you can get at England. A better team with the quality, and all due respect to Croatia, will make England pay for any slight mistakes that they made. They made slight mistakes yesterday, but Croatia didn't make them pay. So I think, whatever he does in whichever way has got to accommodate Harry Kane scoring goals.
Yeah, I guess strength and depth is something that's vitally important for any team that's going to go deep into a tournament like this, lads. And Tony, I suppose the surprise for me and for a lot of people was Jack Grealish not getting any minutes on the pitch in that game. And would it be the case that maybe Gareth is essentially holding on to someone like Grealish for later parts in the tournament? Or from your experience in major tournaments, is it just a case of you pick your best team for every single match you play at a major tournament?
Well, I think you have to take the opponent into consideration. Me and John played under Jack, and Jack would sometimes select players to do a job, and it might not be the popular choice. When I first came into the squad, Liam Brady got dropped. He was a top player playing in one of the biggest clubs in Europe, and Jack had made a decision. He put Paul McGrath in midfield. Now, if that benefits the team and makes us get results, then you've got to say Gareth has to get it right tactically, because you make big calls. As a manager, if it doesn't come off, you're going to get questioned, because there's lots of people. Imagine today, if England get beat and they say, well, why was Mings playing? Why was Trippier playing at left back? Why was Grealish left out? These are all things that a manager has to deal with. I think Grealish, for me, I have to find a space in the team for him, because like John said, if you are really going to be a serious contender to win the Euros, you are going to have to make a space in your side for someone that can, against the very best, deliver a pass that sets up a centre forward. Maybe it's a tap-in, or just he's brilliant at running people with incredible quick feet. I would have to find. I would like to think that Jack Grealish would come back into the team, but I'm not sure, because I don't know how Gareth was thinking about Scotland, obviously, to play next, and then the Czech Republic. I'd want to play him because I know that he will deliver against the very best.
No, I totally agree with Tony. I really do. I think, if you look at Scotland and all right, Scotland decent, Czechoslovakia, but if England are serious about going on and win it, with all due respect to them team, they've got to beat them. And Grealish is the man to open up and get, you get the free kicks. He gets so many free kicks in dangerous areas, which gets a lot of goals for Villa. And he has done for England when the few games he's played. So he's outstanding, Maybe you've got to carry him a little bit because of his lesser defensive duties. As you say, he's not great defensively, but he more than makes up for that. And he would create a lot of chances for Harry Kane.
John, just on that point you make a moment ago about Kane's positioning, it's a really interesting one, and I guess he was their top scorer and the top scorer in general at the 2018 World Cup, and they came so close. And if you look in the context of the weekend just gone, if you look at Belgium, for example, who are a lot of people's favourites for this competition, they have an out-and-out number 9 who's going to bang in goals. So if you get into why this is happening with Harry Kane, is it because they look at the likes of Calvin Phillips and Mason Mount and see them as players who can get beyond Harry Kane better than their midfield in 2018? Or why has this happened?
Yeah, of course. It's about balance. But if you're asking me, if you're asking Tony about what would you prefer, them lads to get beyond Harry Kane and get goals, and I'd get lesser goals. I'd go, oh, no. That's not how it works. You've got one of the best strikers in the world football here, and you're asking him to stop scoring goals to create goals for other players around him. Nah. And he was like, he was one of my favourites to get the Golden Boot, along with Lukaku. And there's a couple of others in there that could, Mbappe and so, get it. But if he keeps on playing him like that, he probably won't score in the competition. It's just, it doesn't make sense. Gary Southgate's a really good manager, but I think he's missing the plot on this one. You know, Harry does a lot for Tottenham. When Mourinho went in there, he was looking at the way Liverpool were playing, and they had 3 players very similar to the Liverpool front three. And I think he's told him to look at what Firmino does. He comes off and he comes deep and all that. And Harry started doing it, Tottenham, he was getting the goals, but all of a sudden he's coming too deep, whether the manager's telling him or he's trying to get involved in that area. If they're going to go on, he's got to stop him and say, look, yeah, come off 5 yards in the little hole, but you don't give yourself 20, 30 yards to get into the box, you know, because you're not going to get on the end of anything. You give yourself 15, you can time your run, that's fine. So it'd be interesting to see what happens in the next 2 games.
Another team, lads, just to take it back to Friday night and the opening night of the tournament that impressed a lot of people were Italy in that 3-0 win against Turkey. And I know a lot of people had Turkey down as dark horses for this tournament, maybe quickly changing their minds, myself included, after seeing that performance. But Italy were so dominant. Ciro Immobile, we're speaking of number 9s there and great strikers. He's certainly one of them. Insigne was excellent as well. Domenico Berardi had an excellent game for Italy throughout. And look, what Roberto Mancini has done with them, Tony, is quite incredible. And they're on a seriously good and impressive unbeaten run at this stage, and winning becomes almost a habit for a lot of teams. So they kind of came in under the radar a little bit, this Italian team, to the tournament in some ways. But how far do you think this team can go?
Well, I tell you what was really interesting with Roberto Mancini's team is that Italy have always had great players. You know, from Baggio to Zola to many others. You know, really terrific forwards who could get goals on a regular basis. And their 3 forwards worked their socks off on Friday night. They all closed down, and Italy played with an aggression. And the moment it went 1-0 against Turkey with the own goal, I thought, the Italians now will just try and hold on to a 1-0. They didn't. They continued to press high, whipping the ball up further up the pitch, and ended up winning 3-0. And I think that was an extraordinary feat by Italy, because you don't see that with many Italian teams. Incidentally, before the build-up, their last 4 friendlies, they scored 21 goals and conceded none. And they played a lot of weak nations in football. All their friendlies were really easy games. Estonia, Moldova, and a couple of others. They beat the Czech Republic 4-0. And that, to me, is sort of the mindset of Roberto Mancini and Italy. They are coming with a game plan. And it's a surprising one, because Italy have always been one of the best, club football and national football, where they counter brilliantly with brilliantly technical players. They didn't do that Friday night. And Turkey, I mean, I do look at the 2 centre-halves for Italy and think teams are going to look and think, turn them. They're not the quickest, they're very well experienced, but let's try and get... And they only showed it now and again. So, again, the question further down the line is, what will a very good team do to them that's a lot more braver than Turkey and a lot more adventurous? I think Italy can get punished that side. But it was great to watch them play in the manner they did.
Yeah, and like interestingly, Turkey were actually quite impressive defensively in qualifying and didn't really concede too many goals, which made their performance on Friday night all the more surprising in some ways, John. But I mean, for you, can you make an argument for Turkey to bounce back? I know in Euro 2008, for example, they lost their opening game to Portugal and went on to make the semi-final. So, like, could the same thing happen here, or were they that poor on Friday night that there's no way back?
It can happen. Of course it can happen. You know, it takes a lot of morale and bounce back ability, doesn't it? You know, when you just lost your first game 3-0, when, you know, that's the worst thing, to get beaten the first game, because the pressure is right on you straight away to qualify. You never know. I don't think they will personally. Italy, I actually thought coming into it, and Tony, you know, alluded to it, the way he was doing clever, gaining the confidence in them games into the competition against the so-called lesser sides. So they come in massively confident. I think they're a danger. I really do. It's going to be so open, this one, because you know, it's not one nation's got home advantage. You know, they're getting played all over the place for the first time. which is going to make it even more interesting with the, you know, you've got the home teams playing with that advantage. You know, it's going to take something, you know, for the teams playing away from home at the wrong time. It may just capitulate on them. So, but I do think Italy have got a really good chance of doing some damage in this tournament. Absolutely. And the way they're playing, you know, with the man, it's a little bit like watching Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp in many ways. Where they're pressing so well up the pitch, and it's not like Italian teams of old when they wait, as Tony said, they wait to catch it out and you're on the break. There's a proper game plan now. And they're playing some fantastic football as well. But Turkey win at the best, you have to say. But Italy's got a bit of a chance, absolutely.
Like it is going to be interesting to see what teams with a better forward unit might actually do, because as you say, they pressed like Liverpool. They left the space in behind their backline like Liverpool, and this is with Bonucci and Chiellini, not with Van Dijk and Gomez. So there has to be an option, John, here for a team with real pace to get in behind the two of them. Even though they've been brilliant all season and they are still excellent defenders, I'm sure that pace wouldn't maybe go too well against a Kylian Mbappe or that type of attacker.
Well, that'd be the game plan. If I'm watching them, you know, obviously, as I did, and now you're thinking the diagonal ball is the one. Diagonals over into the full-back areas, and if you get the players in. But it's getting the time on the ball to do that, see, sometimes. Because literally, we're that good to stopping it the other night. But against the better teams, but you've got to look, you know, again, they haven't conceded the goal for a long time. So it's not going to be that easy for teams against them.
Sorry, I'm going ahead.
Do we think, Tony, that Ciro Immobile could actually be a contender for Golden Boot here, to actually kick on and be this out-and-out goal scorer at an international level?
Well, if you look, we've seen Lukaku get off to a flying start, and he's got 30-odd goals this season for Inter. Immobile the same, you know, got lots and lots of goals. John talked about Harry Kane. You're going to see, I'm interested in watching Lewandowski tonight, you know, play, because he's goal machine. You know, there's a lot of goal machines in this tournament, and don't be surprised if one of them ends up getting 5 or 6. You know, the French have got a few. Benzema's got the amount of goals in Spain. You've got Mbappe for PSG. I think there's a lot of goal scorers. And just going back on something John touched on, what was a really valid point was about Kane and dropping into holes. Now, Harry Kane has won the Golden Boot. He doesn't want to go to another tournament and then be an also run. His contract at Tottenham is, well, debatable whether he'll stay there. There seems to be a move that's going to happen. He wants to go and win trophies, win the tournament and Golden Boots. That's what he's made of. And I think, you know, there's a lot of them there. They're all challenged. I think we've got about, I would say, between 6 and 8 top centre forwards who can get a lot of goals at this tournament.
Yeah.
Sticking on the centre forward theme, lads, I guess in the esteemed striking company that we're in, we might as well continue, because aside from Group A, Turkey 0, Italy 3, the next game then was Wales 1, Switzerland 1, and Kiefer Moore is someone who really impressive, and like his background is interesting to say the least. Like, started in the lower leagues and even into his 20s was still working part-time as a physical or as a personal trainer, and you know, working in as a lifeguard as well. So an interesting backstory. But for you, John, he was quite impressive. He's a proper goal getter, knows how to get himself into the right positions.
Well, I didn't see the game, so I have to apologise. I couldn't see the game, so I was really pleased for Wales to actually get off this good start. Go on, Cash.
I was going to say, could be a personal trainer and a bouncer on a nightclub. The mountain.
It's like a Jamie Vardy story. That Welsh team, lads, can that team? They were probably least favoured to progress from Group A, but do you think they can do any damage in this tournament? Can they kind of recreate the scenes of 5 years ago?
Well, yeah, they've got, you know, they've got experience. You know, they've got a great togetherness as well. You have to say, which is usually important, as me and Cass know. Can they progress? Yeah, I think they've got off to a decent start. It's not going to be easy. But, you know, they've got some really good players. You're looking at the team and there's some standout players. You're thinking, yeah, there's 1 or 2 and you're thinking you're not too sure about. But when you've got other players around you to develop you and bring you out of games, when you haven't got that like 100% top quality within the side, it still can happen. It's still in the early days when I was Republic of Ireland, we had similar problems, you know, for a year or so. Then we come out of it. But certainly, I think Wales, it'd be great for them. It'd be brilliant if they could get out the group. And that would be a winner for them. They couldn't expect to do much more than that in this competition.
But what you said there, John, is really interesting about team chemistry being vital at this stage in a tournament. And I wonder, would you be concerned at all about the sounds coming out from the France camp this week about, obviously there would be a lot of people's pre-tournament favourites, best squad in the tournament, but if you're seeing Mbappe and Giroud airing a bit of dirty laundry in public, does that concern you at all, given what you've just said?
It's not ideal, is it, I suppose, but I think once you start, the quality of players they've got, wow, you know, and what they've done in recent years, they're always going to be a threat. And sometimes, you know, you can start off on a low and it can build up during, you know, go back to Italy when they won the World Cup, you know, years ago. They got beat the first game 1-0, and the morale was right down there, and then they just picked it up. And you go on the slope, and then you hit it goal, and you're going with confidence, and it gains and gains and gains. So that can happen with France. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's going to hurt them too much.
Just to move on to the lads, we'll get to the Scottish game today shortly, but I guess of the other games that occurred over the last number of days, the Dutch win over Ukraine last night was really exciting, 3-2. One of those games, Gini Wijnaldum was excellent, Dumfries was excellent as well for the Dutch, and Frank de Boer, Tony, gets quite a hard time, and he had a bit of a hard time in the lead up to this tournament, and questions over his management and playing style, but the Dutch could surprise a few people in this tournament. It looks like they'll get out of this group anyway, but can they mount a serious challenge?
Well, what was extraordinary about the game last night against Ukraine was how brave the Dutch were. I mean, look, they've always been noted for playing fantastic football and have had incredible players. You know, me and John go back to Rijkaard, Baston, Gullit, and a number of others. They've got talented players. Ukraine were dangerous without having much to show for it. They got two wonder goals, both from Yarmolenko's goal was an incredible strike. I think the Dutch will be punished. I don't think they're good enough defensively. I saw that against Scotland when they played in the 2-2 draw, when the Scots had a number of players out. I don't think they can keep clean sheets, and there will be games where they get really brave and they get bodies, like you said, Wijnaldum getting opening goals, they can create chances. But honestly, I really believe they're going to get punished, the Dutch, because they haven't got the quality. They've got some really good players. I really like Gini Wijnaldum. I think he's a top player. He could have been in any national team in this tournament. But apart from him, I'm not sure that Frankie de Jong, Luke de Jong, and, you know, all these stuff, they're not to the level of previous Dutch teams. And like I say, they'll give goals away.
Yeah, the one big miss, obviously, as I know as a Liverpoolian, is Van Dijk. You know, you put Van Dijk into that side at the back, then they've got a chance. Because he's a monster at the rock. I think he's going to be seriously missed for him, and I totally agree 100% with what Tony said. I think they're great to watch. They've got some lovely players, and they'll always score goals, but someone will shut them out later in the tournament, and they'll go out 1-0, 2-0, 2-1 or something like that.
The Scots then, lads, and the first Euros for them in 25 years, first tournament since 1998. Form iffy enough, but we know what Steve Clarke can do with this team, and they work seriously hard, and they've got some incredible players, you know, McTominay, Robertson, Tierney, and look, they'll have one eye potentially on that game with England, as Owen mentioned earlier, on Friday night at Wembley. But, you know, they have the Czech Republic today at 2 o'clock in Glasgow. For you, Tony, do you think this is a game that the Scots can win? Obviously, winning a first game in a group stage is massively important if you're going to progress.
Well, I was lucky enough to play alongside Stevie Clarke at Chelsea, and he's a very pragmatic guy. In his career, on his CV, he's done some amazing things, especially with Kilmarnock. He created that with Scotland. They've been blessed with a period of really good players. I think McTominay's improved enormously. I'm looking forward to see if he gives a chance to Gilmour in midfield. Then you have McGinn, you know, Armstrong, and there's many, many others. We could name Tierney and Robertson. They've got a lot of good players, and I'm sure John will feel similar to this. They remind me of our Republic of Ireland squad. You know, we have some really big players. There was a real harmony, banter. I just feel Scotland have got. They show that on the pitch, and I just feel there's a lot going in their direction to have a successful tournament and get out the group. I like what I've seen of Scotland, and I think they've got players now. We never had a problem, and although I tell you, everyone came, and some players came injured and weren't really going to be playing involvement in the games of Ireland. But we all wanted to come across. We all wanted to be with each other, and we all wanted to play a part in training and games. And I feel Scotland have got that.
Yeah. Good point.
Do you just start Gilmour, Tony? Like, I mean, we saw Bellingham do all right when he came on yesterday. I mean, age is just a number. I know he's been out for a lot of the season, and maybe he's lacking a little bit of match sharpness, perhaps. But it's kind of like these tournaments don't come along too often. This kid is clearly going to be one of the best Scottish midfielders of his generation. He may not be there yet, but do you just throw him in and just hope that he steps right up to it this week?
Sorry, I didn't know who that was.
On Gilmour, sorry.
Gilmour, oh yes, don't. I've been lucky enough to see him as a kid, and the kid's incredibly confident on the ball, and he is not afraid to receive it in really tight areas, and I think he's going to have a part to play somewhere along this line for Stevie Clarke. Look, there's many great young players appearing in the game, and so many of them are so comfortable, do things that many years ago seemed a bit more harder, controlling balls in certain situations and being in tight areas. And I think, there's a lot of players, and Gilmour's like that, where he can take it and receive it and move it.
Just to finish, lads, then before I let you go on the other two games today, and Tony, you mentioned Poland, so I might start with you on the Group E game between Poland and Slovakia. That's 5 o'clock start in St. Petersburg. You mentioned Robert Lewandowski, and Poland are impressive in qualifying as well. 6 points ahead of Austria in that group. Weren't playing that well in style. Sometimes their style isn't that great to watch, but they have a seriously talented squad, the Poles, and they should progress through this group, you'd imagine, Tony.
Oh, Poland?
Poland, yes.
Yes, it's a weird one, because I think in the last time they had a major tournament in the Euros in 2016, I think Lewandowski went to the tournament as a top goal scorer in qualification, and then didn't score in the actual tournament. Mm-hmm. And I think they find it hard. If he doesn't score, obviously, there's nothing for Poland. They're not going to do anything. And they can get frustration, and he can get frustrated. Look, he's playing in a Bayern team that's far better than his national team. And I think he suffers within that, because I don't think they play on the same wavelength as him.
For you then, John, the other game in Group E, and by the way, Group E is a quality group because you've got Spain and Sweden tonight at 8 o'clock in Seville. I know Spain have had their COVID incidents in the build-up to here, and that kind of disrupted probably their preparations a little bit, but still an incredibly talented team, and unprecedented that no Real Madrid players in the squad for Spain, John, but they're still a very dangerous outfit.
Spain, isn't it? You know that the player that played there, technically they're on a different level at times. They're a fantastic team, fantastic players. I just don't sense this is a tournament where they're going to do what they've done previously. There's something lacking, Ramos, because he's been a big player for them, and I fear for them a little bit. I think they'll still come out the group, obviously. They're too good not to. But I think down the line, there's stronger teams, well equipped to take them on now. So they're not quite the force that they have been over the last 20 years or so.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard to, I guess, predict before we see the teams in action in the tournament to see what sort of form they're in. But exciting to see it. Listen, lads, John, Tony, you've been great with your time, and enjoy the rest of the action this afternoon and for the rest of the tournament.
Thank you, boys.
Good stuff.
Take care.
John Aldridge and Tony Cascarino there on the Euro 2020 show. Before we let you go, myself, Ger and Nathan have a predictions table running for the duration of the tournament. 3 games per show. We'll see who ends up in the lead. I'm not going to brag, Owen, but I got 2 of the first 3 games right.
Which ones did you get right?
I went with an England win, and I went with a draw in Wales-Switzerland. Unfortunately, I didn't get the other game right, which was the other game. The third game was I can't remember myself, but I got it wrong. Basically, 2 out of 3, not bad. Ger got 1 out of 3, and football man Nathan Murphy, Mayo might have been promoted this weekend, so he might be enjoying that, but he won't be enjoying seeing himself bottom of that predictions table. But I just might get that predictions table back up. It was Italy-Turkey the other game. I got that one wrong.
This is the guy, Nathan is the guy who is buying his son, an England jersey. And he didn't even get carried away on the level of hype that would require you to merely tip England to beat Croatia at home, an ageing Croatia team, a Croatia team that has had a chisel taken to its 2018 squad. That's an incredible letdown of football man Nathan Murphy.
Football man Nathan Murphy. So we'll see how the predictions are looking for this weekend. So I've gone for a draw between Scotland and the Czech Republic. I've gone for Poland to beat Slovakia. And I've gone for a draw in Spain and Sweden. I think the Swedes could maybe nick something. That's why I've just gone for a point of difference, Owen, in this one, because I think in order to win this type of thing, I need to move ahead where I can. And if it is a draw tonight, I'll be pulling away. So, what are your predictions for these 3 games today? They're three pretty tight and decent games.
You've got dollar signs in your eyes looking at those 22-1 odds. I think is probably what's happened. I think Scotland are going to win. I think Poland are going to win, and I think Spain are going to win. I think they're going to be the 3 winners today. I think Scotland. I think they will ride this kind of crest of a wave like Wales did in France in 2016, but it'll be easier for them to do so because Hampden will be rocking when it can do, and even Wembley next Friday is going to be this incredible moment. I think Slovakia are average, and I think Poland will beat them, and Sweden are grand, but this Spain team are really good. And I know obviously there's question marks as opposed to say the great teams that John Aldridge talks about there of the past. They aren't on that level, and I wouldn't have them as a team that I think are going to go all the way in this year's tournament. But against Sweden and in this group, I think they're the best team in it. So Spain to win, Poland to win, Scotland to win.
Yeah, so 2 o'clock Group D, Scotland against the Czech Republic in Glasgow. 5 o'clock Group E, Poland against Slovakia in St Petersburg. And then in Seville at 8 p.m. this evening, it's Spain against Sweden in Group E as well. So, Owen, it's been great stuff from you this morning, and enjoy the action this afternoon.
Great to be here, Shane. Good stuff.
That's episode 3 of the Euro 2020 show and Off the Ball in the books. If you missed any of the show or any of our episodes, the full podcast will be up very shortly on the OTB Sports app, which you can download, as I said, for free in the App Store or the Play Store. It's also on otbsports.com. You can also watch the episode back on our youtube.com/Off the Ball. We'll be sure to have plenty of clips, and the podcast posted at Off the Ball on Twitter, on Instagram as well, and you'll get me on Twitter at ShaneHannon01. So I'll be back tomorrow, Tuesday morning, from 11 a.m. in the company of Stephen Doyle. We'll also have Uli Heza with France versus Germany. The pick of tomorrow's games really in Group F, probably the outstanding game of the tournament so far on paper. So a cracker in Group F tomorrow. Hungary against Portugal is tomorrow's other game. So same time, same place tomorrow morning. We'll speak to you then. Have a good one.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power's Save Our Game. Is your bookie giving you jack? Then you haven't tried Paddy Power. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie